Thank you very much. Also, a warm welcome on my side to this introductory workshop on the CLARIN infrastructure. I'm very happy to give this workshop. It's the first time because Switzerland is also quite a recent member in CLARIN. We've been for 3-4 years now, so I have been there also to discover all these things to you, and now to be here to present them to you. I'm very happy and proud to do that. Okay, so what is the CLARIN dream? Why we are doing this? So imagine a humanities researcher, for instance, that is somewhere in Europe or elsewhere, consults the CLARIN catalog, and they find relevant text collections in data repositories in Slovenia and Hungary, but also they find a named entity recognition tool in Czech Republic. They also perform research. Then they perform research on this material, with support from a center of expertise in Czech Republic. They use the tool to build an enriched version of the text collections that they had, benefiting of the CLARIN interoperability standards. And finally, they deposit the annotated text collections in a data repository in Austria for later use by others. And this researcher or these researchers, they can do all this from their own desk. This is the first dream. But also the dream goes even further because the landscape is even bigger than CLARIN itself. Imagine a social sciences researcher who doesn't know about CLARIN, who consults a European discovery platform called the SSH Open Marketplace, and they find CLARIN resources there, like big data, but also corpus platforms with query languages, allowing them to easily query, it might be even copyright protected data, and visualize the results. Also imagine a librarian or humanities or art researcher working with all scanned documents. They also consult the SSH Open Marketplace and find OCR or NLP tools and their associated training materials. And finally, even broader, imagine a researcher from medical sciences. They use the EOSC marketplace. This is the European Open Science Cloud marketplace, and finds CLARIN resources in there, such as patient-doctor data, and also tool to process and analyze the data. How great is this? And this is the CLARIN dream, and we are happy to all contribute to it. So CLARIN is, as you might have already seen on the website, a European Research Infrastructure Consortium, a NERIC. This is a legal statute allowing collaboration between countries since 2012. Scholars can use the infrastructure to access digital language data. It can be written, spoken, video, or multimodal. Tools to discover, analyze, combine data wherever they are located through a single sign-on environment. And if you don't have an account, or if your university account does not, or your already account that you have at your institution does not work, you can get a CLARIN account. It's an ecosystem also for language exchange and training. And finally, CLARIN is actively involved in shaping what I mentioned just earlier, the European Open Science Cloud, EOSC. Open science is at the heart of CLARIN, and I will explain this with a few examples. For instance, there is an important promotion of sharing and reuse of language data through sustainable data registries or data repositories. Enhancement and deployment of interoperability of language data and services through a common metadata framework, the CLARIN CMDI. You might have heard of it, or you will hear about it. Distributed network of FAIR certified data repositories for language data. Also through the promotion of comparative perspectives, which are important, especially in the European landscape and global landscape. Multidisciplinary collaborations, as I showed examples just before. Transnational research. Responsible data science, which is particularly important, especially nowadays. CLARIN also supports linguistic diversity through the fact that data covers many languages, also languages that have what we call the low resource languages. Also by providing tools for many languages, and finally, language resources in all language modalities. And this linguistic diversity is often discipline and language agnostic. CLARIN is also has a place in the bigger SSH landscape. So SSH is social sciences and humanities landscape. What you see here is a graph from the ESFRI report 2024. ESFRI being a body, European body for research infrastructures. You can see here social sciences and humanities, and you can see language data, so CLARIN there for language data, and then you can see examples of the other types of disciplines with their associated research infrastructures. You might also have heard of other types of similar initiatives or projects that deal with language data, and we also think we wanted to explain a bit how CLARIN situates with respect to these other initiatives. So for instance, the European Language Grid or the European Language Equality, you might have heard of that. These are Horizon Europe or projects funded by the European Commission, and the target are commercial partners. The same for the language data space or the ALT-EDIC. It's a European data market for commercial partners. The Digital Europe AI services, which these are European services for public administrations, academia, SMEs, NGOs. And finally, the European Language Resource Coordination, which is a repository for the European Commission and their services. And CLARIN is none of these. It's an ERIC, as we explained before, and the main target is still academia and use of data and language technology for research. So CLARIN Network, in August 2025, we are a happy family of 27 members, member countries, as I said. Switzerland joined recently, and UK also the last two main members that joined this year. CLARIN itself is constituted of centers. There are two types or two main types, the B centers, which focus on fairness and interoperability, and the K centers, which focus on specific areas of expertise. They cover a large number of research topics, languages, and resource types. And of course, all this is easily accessible on the CLARIN website. So to give you an example, since we are here in Austria, CLARIN B Center, the Austrian Center for Digital Humanities, which is hosted by the Research Institute. It's a research institute at the Austrian Academy of Sciences, allows to discover and deposit services for language resources related to Austria. Another example also from Austria, the CLARIN K Center for Terminology, Resources and Translation Corpora. And what you can see here is a screenshot of their page. So how CLARIN works, or what is the workflow of a resource in CLARIN? So it can be a single text or recording, a corpus, lexicon, wordnet that is deposited in a repository at the CLARIN Center, one of these B centers that I showed you before. Each country has at least one, the bigger countries more B centers. So in B centers, there is the language data, there is the metadata that describes the language data, and also language tools. Language tools that can be web application, web service, and some other types of tools or pipelines. And they are all interconnected at the CLARIN B centers, and all the B centers use the same metadata system to describe these resources. In terms of web applications, so CLARIN has what we call the central services, so proposed by CLARIN ERIC itself. Then there are other services proposed by the countries. Here you see examples of web applications proposed by CLARIN ERIC. So for the federated content search, which will receive more attention a bit later by ERIC. Also the language resources switchboard, which is a service allowing you to find suitable tools for processing your data, depending on what data you have. The virtual language observatory, which is the CLARIN catalog, allowing metadata search or search into the metadata of the resources so that you can find the right resource for you. and virtual collection registry, which publishes and gives access to digital bookmarks. So among the infrastructure components that CLARIN proposes, we can classify them according to the FAIR principles: findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. I will not say more about them because my colleague Mieta will say a bit later. But what you see here on the left side of my slide is examples of these infrastructure components that help to support each of these principles. Again, I will not go through all of them today because we should stay here for more longer time. A few words about the Virtual Language Observatory, or the VLO, which helps to explore more than 800,000 language resources, tools, and services. All the resources have persistent identifiers, so we use handle in CLARIN. They also provide information about availability or licensing of each resources found, technical details, also how to process the data, for instance, in the switchboard. And you can combine research results into a virtual collection. The switchboard that I also mentioned a few times, it's this web service that allows you to find and use NLP tools that can process your data. You can come with your own files if you want, but also you can use data that you have just found using the VLO. You can then simply push it into the switchboard and then continue working on your data using the tools, the integrated tools, the tools that are integrated. The CLARIN resource families, this is it's the result of a collaborative longer process in CLARIN to have well-curated corpora and lexical resources organized by data type and language. The data can be downloaded directly. You can also find NLP tools, again, license information, which is important, and links to publications and training materials. And I think I'm almost done with the CLARIN single sign-on. This is this famous part of the vision, which was the fact that researchers can access all these resources through a single sign-on online environment. It's this one, restricted to resources and tools that can be accessed with your university credentials when your country is a member of or observer of CLARIN. Example of scenarios that can be to explore the CLARIN central services, what I have just showed. For instance, someone who needs to find recordings of, let's say, spoken Catalan can use the VLO. Or if you need help to find the resource and the tools, for instance, to research the stylistic differences in the 20th century novels translated to Polish from English between British and American authors. It's a nice and interesting research question. Or evidence of a specific linguistic expression in various corpora, or someone might have a TEI file on their computer and would like to have dependency trees for all the sentences that the file contains.